Dropping it live from the campus of Morgan State University.
Strictly Hip Hop.
Yeah, Strictly Hip Hop.
On Baltimore's Hip Hop Source, 88.9 FM.
Strictly Hip Hop.
Yeah.
What up? What up?
Yo, man. We still here, man.
How much time we got left on the clock?
We got about an hour and a half left of this 24-hour broadcast, celebrating 25 years of broadcasting right here live from the campus of Morgan State University in a new building from when it originally started.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? But it's still the same show. It's still the same essence. Still what you remember as a listener. You know what I'm saying? 410-319-8888. Call us up. You know what I'm saying? Let us know how you've been listening, how long you've been listening. But we got something special, though.
We do. Miss J. Ashley and myself, we had the pleasure of sitting in with the original host of Strictly Hip Hop, Vinny V. And he was definitely just dropping jewels, talking about his whole experience. 25 years, he started the show.
No doubt. Like, if you don't know, Vinny V started the show back in 1990. The show was Strictly Hip Hop was originally a part of the underground experience. And at some point, they started doing hip hop on the side, and then they broke it off. And here you have it, every Friday from midnight to 5 a.m. But Vinny V is the man who brought it all to you, and he dropped some jewels on everybody. You know what I'm saying?
The originator. He's the reason why we're here right now. He's the reason why we're celebrating 24 hours.
Word.
We got to kind of dedicate that to him. So I want to take, an hour out of those 24 and just dedicate that to Vinny V.
Hey, it's time to hear where it all started. So if you've been listening all day to all this hip hop, all the DJs, all the hosts of the past, all the things we've been saying, the whole experience, now we're going to bring it all the way home with A+ Autumn and Jay Ashley and the one and only Vinny V.
Yeah, and Harvey Dent is going to, kind of gauge us through this thing.
No doubt.
He definitely got us on the instrumentals. Shout out to Harvey Dent. Let's go.
Strictly Hip Hop.
Strictly Hip Hop, 25 years, the original host, the one and only, Vinny V.
I mean, that sounds...
That'll work?
Yeah, that'll work.
Vinny V, strictly Spurs.
The funny thing is, I'm like such a super, I'm like a very like kind of like humble person. So anytime it's like super like large, like I had somebody like come with this super large
incredible
thing. Yeah, I was like, whoa. I'm just like a regular guy.
I mean, but you started Strictly Hip Hop, and 25 years later, it's still here.
Yeah, that is amazing.
Now, I know you probably told this story many times before, but, how did Strictly Hip Hop come about?
Well, originally, I was a student here at Morgan State, along with another student by the name of Brian Pope.
Okay.
Who also...
Shout out to Brian Pope.
Shout out to Brian Pope, who also did a show. And we had a communications course with the then general manager, Preston Blakely. And Dr. Blakely, rather, let me actually say that again, Dr. Blakely, he wanted to, get a younger audience for WEA. He was trying to find ways of doing that. So he pretty much came to the class and said, hey, what do I need to do? And, yours truly and Brian Pope, we said, you got to bring some music that the young people want to hear. At that time, of course, hip hop, was there.
Yeah, it was up and coming.
Yeah, it was up and coming. And of course, house music was also there, as well as like, reggae dancehall, that was big. And so, we made that, suggestion.
So not to date you, but around what time did this start?
This had to be, I want to say, maybe 89, 1990.
Okay.
Somewhere around there. Because eventually Brian came to me and said, hey, I need some help getting some signatures, for a show. And I said, sure. So we went around on campus got a bunch of signatures, and then eventually.
Like to petition to have a show.
That's correct.
Okay.
And then eventually, Brian got this show.
Yeah.
You know, he reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm going to be doing this show called Back on the Block."
Okay.
And it's going to come on Friday nights. He was going to play kind of like mellow jazz and slow jam music from 12 to 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then he would play, house, hip hop, reggae from about 2 to 5:30 in the morning.
Now, for that time, that was a crazy blend, right?
It was, but back then too, a lot of DJs, they were used to kind of playing like a mixture of different stuff.
Right.
It wasn't like, as segmented as it is, kind of today, where people kind of stick to hip hop only and house only and just reggae only.
It was music.
It was music.
Right.
So eventually, Pope started the show. I was doing other things here at EAA, filling in for the jazz shows, running the boards, doing production stuff. The regular.
Yes. The start of us all.
The start of us all. Even getting coffee.
Yes.
I did that too.
We all work.
But then, eventually, I started working with Pope because Pope had, would do some gigs. I started, coming in and doing the slow jam part of the show. And I was well versed with, of course, slow jams. I grew up in Washington, D.C. on a Quiet Storm and all those things. And so I was like, yeah, I'll do the slow jams. I love doing it. So I did the slow jams and jazz. And then Pope would come in, and do the show at 2. And that show took off. And once that show took off,
the Back on the Block show.
Eventually they were like, hey, we're going to move, Pope to Saturdays. And I was then approached by the then program director, and he said, because I had already kind of mentioned it, like, it'd be nice to have a straight hip-hop show.
Yeah.
I had already kind of mentioned it to him, and me and DJ OG, who was another Morgan person, another EAA personality former, we used to talk about it all the time. So when, the then program director, Joe Lee, came to me and was like, hey, Pope is moving, at 2 o'clock.
We got some space available.
Yeah, we got some space. You play some hip-hop.
What you want to do with it?
You could do it. You could 2 o'clock to 5:30, you can play some hip-hop music. He says, the only thing that we ask is that it be professional. Mm-hmm. And so I said, sure, And so one day, sat in one of the dorm rooms, one of my friend's dorm rooms, and actually one of the first mixers on the show, Greg Boogie. Mm-hmm. We sat down, and I was like, I got to figure out a name for this show. And, but I'm a person that believes in naming things simple.
Yeah.
So I just said, shucks, this show is pretty much strictly hip-hop.
Yeah, and there it was.
And there it was.
It was born.
It was born. And so once that happened, we were doing it at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I think we may have been on for about a month. Mm-hmm. But it was like immediate.
It took off.
Like it just took off. It like spread. And the next thing I know, I'm in another meeting with the general manager and the program director, and they're like, you can start this thing at 12.
Yeah.
Go 12 to 5:30. Once again, keep it professional. Do your thing. And the biggest thing for me as a young person was a general manager and a program director saying, Vinny, we believe in you. We believe in your vision.
Right.
We know what you're gonna do. Just keep it professional. We want this show, also to be like a training ground. Mm-hmm. And so I thought about all those things, and you try to incorporate those things, and with things in mind that eventually I would leave. At some point I was going to leave.
Yeah,
sure.
But you had to, make sure everything was in place.
I wanted to make sure that everything was in place so that eventually, other students at Morgan could, benefit from it.
Mm-hmm.
With something that, not everybody's interested in jazz. Music. Once they kind of like learn the roots of hip hop.
Right, because it's all music, and
that's right.
It all has that jazz foundation.
That's right.
So how hard was it for you to kind of bridge that gap between jazz and hip hop?
Well, fortunately for me, you know, I lived in a very musical home. My family, you know, half of my family is, you know, is from Trinidad. Mm-hmm. And then the other half, of course, is, you know, from the States. And in my household, there was a variety of different styles of music. You know, just like, probably like a lot of other people, you know, we listen to jazz, we listen to R&B, listen to soca, listen to calypso, listen to reggae, you know, some Brazilian, African.
A little bit of everything.
It was a little bit of everything. And so I kind of already had, like, in my head, the connections, mm-hmm. you know, to hip hop. So basically, you know, the idea with Strictly Hip Hop was, well, first of all, you know, since, you know, hip hop, it was kind of on the radio, but it wasn't fully like how it is now.
It wasn't a mainstream.
It wasn't really like mainstream. You know, it was kind of like delegated to mix shows. Mm-hmm. Usually, you know, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 12, you know, that kind of thing. And so, though I had, you know, kind of experienced a little bit of, you know, these type of shows, you know, either in, you know, DC or listening to stations in Baltimore, or when I went up to New York or Philadelphia and got a chance to listen to those stations, you know, that what I realized is that you know, sometimes they kind of forgot about like the old school sometimes. You know, It was kind of like a whole focus on new school. And I wanted to, of course, focus on new school and break artists, but I also wanted to also show respect to the old school. The roots. And keep that part of it like alive. And so, and this is one particular song that kind of started things. And that was, I was listening to a Roy Ayers cut. Just happened to be listening to the radio. Mm-hmm. And I heard this Roy Ayers cut. And I was like, wow. I said, hold up, I heard that somewhere. And then it just happened I had the NOG and the Bulldog song, Be a Father to Your Child. And played that cut and I was like, wow. I said, somehow we got to implement this thing. I didn't know how.
Yeah.
But eventually a segment would come out of that from a person who named Roots. And he started this segment called Milk Crates.
Okay.
And that segment was basically, we would play the original and then play, you know, the hip hop version. Mm-hmm. And it was like a major like hit. Like people would wait till like 2 o'clock in the morning. We decided like, hey, we're gonna put it at 2 in the morning.
Yeah, keep them up.
Keep people like listening. And people will wait to 2 in the morning for this little 5-minute segment. Yeah. And that's when we kind of like knew that we had something. So we tried to bridge that gap, you know, try to bring in the, you know, some of the older listeners mm-hmm. too, by playing, you know, specific jazz.
Playing the classics they
knew.
And
playing the classics.
And then the newer versions. So they also understand that you know, hip hop was pretty much, it was, you know, it came from it. Right. You're listening to the same music.
You're listening to the same music.
Put
you know,
together
it's just put together differently, you know, just a younger way of doing it.
Right.
And so I think people started appreciating it. And so we started getting a variety of different listeners from older to younger, you know, from, you know, just maybe like a janitor working late at night,
and just happen to be listening
to a police officer who may be working a late shift.
Right.
You know, they would all be kind of like reaching out to us, and then we had the young people like listening. And like today, you know, we had a call, you know, with a young 13-year-old. Oh. Well, he was 13 when he said he listened. And I was like, wow, I didn't even know 13-year-olds were like listening.
They were up at that hour. You never know. That's 12 to 5 shift.
So that is true, which actually made me think of another story.
Tell me about it.
Well, actually, speaking of 13-year-olds, you know, one of the DJs that were, you know, that eventually would become a part of Strictly Hip Hop was DJ Lil Mike. And we got a great story with him. He's kind of always embarrassed by this story, but you know, it's real. You know, he actually came to the station one day, you know, with a friend, and was just trying to, you know, he was producing, mm-hmm. trying to like do some music, and we were sitting there in the production studio, listening to it, and I had a good best friend of mine who was a hip hop artist who came through, and we were just kind of giving him quarters. And then eventually, Lil Mike kind of like started hanging, hanging around the station. And sometimes that used to happen with Strictly Hip Hop.
That's how it starts.
Yeah, but that's how it starts. But I didn't realize he was as young as he was until his mom called.
Oh, wow.
And she was like, she said, Vinny, your name Vinny? I said, yeah. She said, my son has been, coming up to the station. And you mind if can I meet you? I'd like to know where he's going.
Right.
And I said, sure. So she came up and she met me and a couple of other fellas that were up at the station. And she realized that we were just good people. And she said, you guys are good people. She said, just make sure he gets home, gets home in the morning. I said, sure, no problem. We'll protect him like he's like our little brother.
Keep him safe.
Keep him
an eye
safe.
on him.
Yeah, but you know what? The greatest thing about that, and why I'm so kind of proud of him, is that eventually he found like some things that he loved. He eventually started working on Strictly Hip Hop.
Yeah.
We kind of brought him in like a little bit, and then he started working regular. And then, he ended up attending Morgan, too. So, there's some good things that came out of that Strictly Hip Hop show.
Yeah, it is, foundation for so many people, and so many DJs, personalities have started here and just blossomed.
That's
so
true.
It's really dope. Shout out to Jay Ashley in the building with us.
That's right.
We got, some classic Strictly Hip Hop in here, some current Strictly Hip Hop, and the future of Strictly Hip Hop.
The future of Strictly Hip Hop.
Yes,
That's right.
Jay Ashley.
There she is.
But yeah, and it's a Morgan thing. You know, shout out to all the Morgan alums, definitely.
That's right.
But it's an at-home feeling you get when you're here.
Yeah.
And I know back, when you were doing your thing, they weren't in this building. Where'd you guys start out at?
Originally, we were in Holmes Hall.
Okay.
And I remember, and for like a long period, sort of a long period, Holmes Hall was going through renovation. Mm-hmm. And so, so the studios were still there while they were kind of building out in Banneker Communications. And so for a while we were there. And actually that was we had a lot of great interviews there, but the biggest one was probably, I would say, Wu-Tang Clan. Because, like I said, the building was, it was being renovated. And so, they had actually just came to the station. They had heard about the station from, I think, another like hip-hop artist. Yeah. The rumor is it was Lord Jamal. Like, he had kind of heard about the show. It had spread. And apparently, they said it was like, one of the hottest shows, like, in the East Coast.
Oh, wow.
And so they came through and, decided to just take a chance, I guess. And I didn't know who they were at first. One of them I kind of thought I recognized from like a video.
Right.
But, I didn't really like know them. And so it was like a whole crew. I'm there, there's a couple other people, you're always worried like, oh, we're here in this building.
And a whole squad comes through.
Yeah, anything can happen in that, in that place. But, they came through and they said, hey, we the Wu-Tang Clan, and, we have this record that we are pushing, on our own label, and it's called Protect Your Neck. And, so I was like, all right, let me listen to it.
Right.
And one of the things that I kind of tried to do is be very honest with people. Sometimes people don't like it.
Yeah, you got to be.
But I think you do have to be honest.
Yeah.
I think people kind of respect you for that. And so, but as soon as I put on Protect Your Neck, I was like, this is crazy. Can we do it?
Like, were they listening? Were they recording on their tape deck?
I'll actually pay for a copy right now because I would love to have it.
That's classic.
But they did a fantastic freestyle, and it was a great moment. They gave me like a couple of copies, and they were like, we're just trying to push this thing. So I had met people. I was cool with Soul Controllers over at University of Maryland, and I was also cool with some commercial radio DJs in DC. So, I just grabbed a couple of those copies and passed it out. And the next thing I know, these guys,
They on TV.
they got signed to like a major label deal. They blew up, and then they did a song which I can't really like say because
I can bleep it out later.
You can bleep it out later, but but it's pretty much the Wu-Tang Clan. Ain't nothing to.
Hey, they ain't nothing to mess with.
Yeah, and you know what the thing is like, it was funny because like Strictly Hip Hop was one of those shows that we didn't exactly go by the book and stuff. So we were like, album cuts, we were playing it. If we liked it, we would play it. I would come in about 2 hours, 3 hours before the show and edit.
Yes.
And
that's
back then we didn't have any like Adobe Audition. Oh, man. So we had the little reel to reel, but I got good with it. I go in there and like splice that thing up. And so we would like edit these things and we would like just make hits. And so like record labels were like loving us because we were making hits, and they actually could tell that sales were being generated from this little college station because it really wasn't like nothing else really kind of going on. I think
it was one of a kind.
It was one of a kind, and eventually all the stations started kind of picking up, and probably by the time I left, that's when it was like a little bit of like the transition. Money, people were starting to make a lot of money, and then, of course, record labels started kind of moving, their push towards, college radio. I don't think they were like pushing, artists as much to college radio like they used to.
Right.
And I guess also because they were probably downsizing their promotions companies too. But that was pretty much, there's so many memories. I mean, after Holmes Hall, we moved to Banneker, and there we had even more great interviews. I mean, we had like a ton. It was a ton of artists that we kind of broke, and of course. It's too many to name, but probably like the one that a lot of people, and actually, Bass was just asking me about this just now. We interviewed like the Fugees, and I had my moment of flirting with Lauryn Hill. That was fun.
How many people can say they did that?
Yeah, that's what I always say. She didn't give me a number.
Oh man.
But she was nice enough to sit down and listen to me.
Right.
So that was great. But they were great. She was, wonderful. It's great to, meet some of these artists, and, I look back and Lauryn, she was, all of them, even, Pras, Wyclef, they were some very nice, down-to-earth people. Yeah. And this is also right during the verge of them blowing up. But I kind of suspect that, Lauryn's still the same way.
That was the greatest thing, I guess, about Strictly Hip-Hop starting when it did, because you were right there at the cusp, if you will, of hip-hop and what was going on. And you were catching artists before they were, big-headed and too far gone for you to get to. And you were bringing them back home.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the greatest things. And one of the things that I always will kind of like cherish, to have that opportunity. To sit down and watch, a group like, say, like The Roots, to interview them and like nobody like knew who they were. I mean, I think when The Roots came, I think I had a couple of artists. I had some other people that were around. Not really probably well known, and they were like, "Who's this Roots group?" And I said, they're like a hip hop band, and they like are just dope,
crazy live music.
And I look at them now.
Yes, they still going.
They're still going strong. I mean, they have, have moved away. Even they're still a hip hop group, but they're like. Much more than that.
They're everywhere.
They're everywhere, and there were so many like artists like that. And of course, we got a chance to interview some still underground artists too that are still dope. Yeah. But I didn't get a chance to interview one of the groups that I wish I would have. I wanted to interview was A Tribe Called Quest, and I was supposed to. but something happened, with the schedule, and it didn't come through. But I feel blessed that the people that I did get a chance to interview over the years, and and I'm very happy for like everybody. I don't think I met any artist that I can think of that was really mean or rude or anything like that. And I think maybe because of age, because we all were like kind of close to the same age, and so I don't know if that was something too. And
and when you run into someone who genuinely loves your music, and like you're up here and you're promoting them and you listen to them, so it's like they gotta respect it.
It's true too, and I think
it was love. It was love,
and that's all how we kind of went at it. I mean, we also kind of went at things, and especially if I was going. I mean, like I interviewed KRS-One. He was supposed to come to the station. He couldn't, schedule. I think a flight thing. So we did the phone interview, and at that time he had a situation with PM Don at that time, and it was an article I think in Rolling Stone magazine, if I'm correct, and he felt like KRS-One, he felt like he got disrespected. So he kind of he took care of it hip hop style.
Yes.
in a KRS-One kind of fashion, and I wasn't sure how to handle it, but I knew a lot of people were interested in it. I wasn't sure if he wanted to talk about it though.
Right.
And so I asked him prior to us going on the air, and I said, hey, a lot of people want to hear this. Do you mind if I ask you this question? He said, no, I don't want to talk about it. I said, sure. Okay. We ain't gonna bother about it. But then we did the interview, and he was so comfortable.
He got cool.
KRS-One, he could talk.
Yeah.
He's not afraid to talk for sure. Probably one of the best interviews I ever did. Yeah, he went on, and then he went on and talked about it and explained it, gave his side. I totally respect it. And it was, those are the type of things that used to come up, with Strictly Hip Hop. Yeah. I mean, we interviewed Outkast, Goody Mob. It's too many. It's
everybody.
A whole list of people that we got a chance to interview.
That's great, though. So, what about some of the relationships? I know, you guys got a chance to meet a lot of artists, but what about industry relationships? I know you said Strictly would reach out to a lot of the local magazines and things of that nature.
Yeah, well, a lot of things. I mean, when I first started, it's a good story too. Is when I first started, I'm young. I don't really know too much of how to interact with record promoters and record companies and things like that. And so I was trying to find out how to get music for the station. And so basically, I went to my big brother, Brian Pope. I asked a question, and Brian, typical big brother fashion, like, brother, you gotta learn on your own.
Oh boy!
But then he came back with a book, and he said, hey, you can start with this, right. And then kind of look at labels, things like that. And so that's how I kind of started. I started with that little book, and called up some record labels and introduced myself, say, hey, I'm doing college, I'm doing a hip hop show, I need some music.
Right.
Pretty much. And I just started kind of, building up a relationship with each of the promoters. After a while of seeing that, we were breaking artists, and I wasn't afraid to actually tell people, I think it's whack.
You gotta be brutally honest.
I was like, it's whack. People, some people got upset, but most people kind of respected it. Yeah. And I think, in turn, that kind of started building up a lot of relationships because, one of the persons that one of the first promoters of this, that I had met was actually Kevin Lyles.
Shout out to Kevin Lyles. He's in Baltimore right now.
Yeah, Baltimore native, very good dude. I remember he came up to the station and, he was like, yeah, I think he was just doing like, I want to say he was just probably doing the Baltimore area promotions at that time. Just covering Baltimore. And I could be wrong with that. He may have been covering a little bit wider, but he was just a great guy. Gave me like advice. I would ask him questions. I'd be like, how does this thing work? And he would give us, if he didn't know, a lot of times, sometimes he'd be like, I don't even know. He said, but when I find out, I'll like let you know.
Right.
And so that's how we kind of build up like a relationship. So for like years, we would kind of, do that kind of thing, say what's up, see how he's doing, and not only from like a music relationship, like, yeah, you giving me this and that kind of thing, but, genuinely,
yeah, like,
what's up? How you doing?
Yeah.
And we did that like a lot of a lot of record labels, a lot of record promoters, promotions staff, and so eventually we would just, I'll be like, I'll let EA, who was the program director here at EA, and I would be like, hey, I gotta go. I'm gonna take off because I'm going to New York.
Right, they go chill.
And I would go and we would just do a pilgrimage, and we would go, pilgrimage, see some of the record label people and just kind of interact with them, and there was a lot of record label people. They were kind of, nice, Drew Ha, rest in peace to Justo. He used to work at Nervous and Atlantic Records. We used to just go there, visit, sit there, talk to Justo and Drew Ha, and come back with boxes of records. But but the other side of it is, with Strictly Hip Hop, it wasn't just we wasn't just getting music from record labels or anything like that. We also would go to the store and and do dig for records. Go to Philadelphia and be like, oh, these are some local independent artists,
right?
And and do the label thing, like, hey, that's this guy looks tough,
right?
Or whatever,
A&R real quick.
Yeah, and then we would buy the record and come back the same night, because and that's like one of those stories too, like Black Moon. I went to the store downtown. I think it was Inner City Records. I believe it was Inner City Records. I went there one day, and after a while, people kind of knew, oh, this is Vinny, and the guy was like, hey, Vinny, this is some new hip hop stuff. And then I saw a Nervous record, and I was like, And at this time, Nervous had kind of just started, or I just found out about it, because I thought Nervous was more like a house music label, and he put, I said, hey, can you play this thing? And he played this thing, Who Got the Props? And I was like, I'm buying that now. And then I would take it to the station and like unwrap that thing and just be like, Baltimore, this is just dope.
Right, look what I got for you.
Bam. And just play it. And we would do that like all the time. We played like Nas. I got a promotional like cassette of The World Is Yours. And I ended up like played it right off the cassette. And just introduced Nas to the world. And I played it and I was like, I like that. Right. You know what? We're going to play it again. And that, we would just kind of, it was structure in the show.
I was going to say, what was the format like back then?
It was, usually what we would do is we kind of mixed it up. We would play, I would play a couple of tunes, non-mixing or anything like that. And then after that, we would have, maybe 3 or 4 mixes throughout the night. It was, very music heavy. That was the thing, that's how we kind of really like wanted it. There's periods too that, like anything that we would talk. Yeah. And sometimes
get into the big debates.
Sometimes we get into some big debates, who's better in this. Or sometimes we would just talk too long. Yeah. And we had to like go through our emotional, like, we got to cut this thing off. But we kind of, but it was a very music heavy show. So, basically, you knew, you pretty much knew throughout the night, that's for sure. And then at 2 o'clock, we would do usually whatever feature we were going to do. And for a while, it was milk crates. And then eventually, once Roots, had graduated and he left, we tried to kind of keep it going, but it was kind of hard, at least at that time for us, because, a lot of us were still kind of students. So it was like, we didn't have like deep pockets to get the crates, like like Roots did. He had like a lot. And so we eventually, I started kind of moving into like interns, letting interns kind of, come up with some things. I mean, we did, test bin.
Yes. Shout out to the test bin.
Yeah, I mean,
Vegas.
Vegas. I mean, we did a lot of different things to kind of like, we just try to use that to kind of like be like a point where people can like look forward to.
Yeah.
And so, eventually, I mean, I may be jumping ahead with this though. When I was looking, it's like, it's about time for me to probably like step aside.
Yeah.
And I was trying to figure out like who I could like pass it to, who could I pass this torch to, because my biggest thing is I wanted it to grow. I didn't want people to be like, oh yeah, Vinny, it was the best, he was the best host or whatever. That's not really my thing. My thing was I wanted to kind of continue to grow.
Yeah.
So whoever came next, it took it to like another level.
Right.
So that people, would continue to like be like, wow, Kill, Vegas, whoever.
Right.
These guys like dope, and they kind of would continue the tradition.
Yes.
But I also wanted them to also, I was very particular because I also wanted to kind of understand like the foundation first.
Yeah.
And and once
you gotta keep it strictly.
Yeah. So once you understand like that foundation of it, then you can go whatever direction because you always kind of come back to that foundation. And so that was the big thing for me.
And the foundation, like you were saying earlier, is just more or less having that older hip hop music, the classics, the old school, and then throwing in the new school with it, mixing it up, but keeping it strictly.
The new school, and don't get me wrong, the breaking artists playing new music is like very important. I always felt like college radio, was, the type of radio that you could, that should, should break art. And, as a DJ myself,
it's a crazy platform.
It's a crazy platform.
It's open.
Yeah. I mean, as a DJ myself and as well, I always felt like one of the biggest things for a DJ is to educate your audience. And I don't feel like I'm doing my job unless I'm introducing you to some new sounds.
Yeah, that's what the DJ does.
That's what a DJ does. And so I always thought that's one of the that's one of the biggest things for college radio. That's one of the things for Strictly Hip Hop. Strictly Hip Hop is, but it also has the understanding of like the history, and it keeps that history alive. And because it doesn't make sense for people these days to not know who Kool Herc is.
You gotta know.
That does not make sense. And and it scares me because I could talk to some young people. They really don't know. But I felt like it was my duty, to do that.
Right.
So I took on that that responsibility. And anytime I'm in a situation, and I come here at EAA, or wherever, I feel like that's what I'm supposed to like really like do is keep that part like alive, so that people can once again understand.
You gotta know where hip hop came from.
Yeah. And then you can go, just like I said, you can go wherever with it.
You could take it and do whatever you want with it, but know where it started.
Because it's nothing wrong. It's nothing wrong with the newer generation. And I go through my moments too. Like I'm an old head, and I listen to some stuff today, and I'm like. But I try, and then
just got sigh.
Yeah, I got to sigh, and then I got to sit down and listen to my nephew, like 20, and I listen to him and some of the young, some younger people, and then I sit down and I'm like, and then they were like, hey, this is what's kind of going on like now and things like that. And, I got like respect for it, but, but one thing for sure, like, I wish I could have brought my nephew here today, because he would tell you, it's like, I made sure he sat down and like listened to some of the old school stuff. To some real hip hop, so he could kind of understand. So like now he can like listen with a trained ear.
Yeah, I was gonna say it trains your ear to know what to listen for when you out here picking these artists that you want to support.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because you definitely don't want to just be listening. A lot of people, they get into the beats and they get into the facade of the rapper, but you really gotta listen to the music, the lyrics, and the content that's being pushed to you.
That's correct.
Yes.
That's correct. And I'm all about this hip hop thing kind of like going forward.
Yeah.
I think it can't stay the same. Like, listen to, music from, probably like the 90s, like the golden age, so to speak. I love this. I love it. I listen to it all the time, to be honest with you. But at the same time, that was that time, and so eventually it grows.
Yeah. And it got to here 25 years later.
Yeah.
Did you think Strictly was gonna go for 25 years?
You know what? I honestly, the first couple of years, I didn't think it was gonna like last. Just like anything, you're young. In the beginning, you make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Every once in a while, you let that that little word kind of slip, and you're like, uh-oh.
Yes, we all make that mistake on public radio.
Yeah, it happens. And I remember one time in particular, I had to, it wasn't even like that. We used to have, artists would come do interviews, and their promotions team, they would like kind of go, they would want to, of course, promote the artist. So we want to put stickers all over the place. And it was one particular time they put stickers
all over like
the studio. And I didn't notice that they had did it. And then, of course, I heard about that. And so you had to go through those things. And then I would go through the motion like, I'm sorry, we'll fix this. We'll make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
It was a lot of things to like just to try to keep the show, kind of like going, and especially like in the early days. But we had like, really like good support. It's always good to have a very good, a program director and a GM, that has like, definitely like the vision, and also to kind of believe in you. So they kind of like believe in it, and then I try to like, I was, and then as I, the more I started working on the show, I started thinking to myself, of the bigger picture of it, this is like really like the only true hip hop source.
Yeah.
You may find some stuff like around, and I know now the internet is there too.
It's there, but if you want to turn on your radio,
you want to,
and you want
free.
Straight hip hop, and to be introduced to some music, because it's different when you out sorting through things and listening to this and listening to that. But Strictly Hip Hop has always been one of those shows where it brings you so many different types of hip hop music, but you find it all in one place.
That's right. and that's the beauty of it. I think that's the beauty of it, and that's the reason why it needs to like continue.
Yes. That's why we're here.
I think looking at it, just like you said, I didn't think it would like last 25 years. I was like really like concerned, because like I think I left in 96.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like it was August of 96 when I said, hey, time.
It's time to go.
And I actually was, and this is a part of the story that some people may not know. I actually had thought about like leaving like about a year earlier. But what happened was I couldn't find like a person like to pass it to.
Yeah, because like you said, it has to be that almost perfect person.
It's got to be the perfect person. I was definitely particular.
Yes, because that was your baby.
Because it's my baby. Yeah, you're right. And the other thing is too is it takes like a certain kind of like dedication to come up here
That
every
12 to
week.
5
So
shift.
12
Yes, 12 to 5 shift.
It is hard. I mean, there's a lot of things that I missed out on,
On
because
a Friday
on
night.
a Friday night, I couldn't do any gigs on a Friday night.
Yeah.
I couldn't date on a Friday night.
Oh, man.
I couldn't do, everything has to be kind of like focused on this show on a Friday night from 12 to 5. And, and you're doing it, pretty much, free. And not that I had a problem with it.
Yeah, it's
because
from
I
the
enjoyed
heart.
it. It was
It's
from the heart. So, so I wanted to make sure that it kind of continued.
Mm-hmm.
And I also thought of it as, as a great place to train, to train people, and to train the up and coming new, radio personalities, DJs, feature record label people, promotion people. I mean, like you said, there's a lot of people that worked, worked on Strictly Hip Hop, that went on to some really great things.
Yeah.
And a lot of them got, actually kind of got their first radio experience like here. Coming to the boot camp.
The boot camp. I mean, I've been there. I started out with Strictly years. Like I interned for years while I was at Morgan. Yeah. And then from that I was able to get a job with WEAA, and I'm still back here with Strictly.
Here, yeah.
Helping the other interns out. So it's family. It's always family.
Yeah, and that's one of the things too. I mean, that is like very important about Strictly Hip Hop. I mean, no matter what, we're all like family. I mean, I always try to like express this thing that, I'm like a phone call away. Mm-hmm. I'm like, an email away. Whatever, if somebody from Strictly Hip Hop contacted me, which every once in a while it happens. I mean, I heard from, Ock, not too long ago. I chat with Kill like every once in a while, as well. We just chatted like about a week ago. Whatever. They just, 'cause, I mean, we got some people like our producers. Yeah. They producing music. They'll be like, Vinny, I just did this new like 5 songs. Can you check it out? Give me your opinion. I'll be like, it sucks. No, but no, I don't be doing that. But no, I don't know. I may be lying about that.
Right, you gotta let them know.
I'll be honest about it. But but that's the thing. It's like a family thing, and and that's one of the things that I really like, kind of like encourage, and that, I would have gotten my start unless somebody gave me like the opportunity.
Right.
And I kind of look at that. So, if I can help somebody, then that's great. Yeah. And I feel the same way with a lot of the Strictly Hip Hop crew. If I needed something and I reached out to you, like, hey,
we gonna be there.
Can you check out my song?
We gonna look out.
Even though it's like, it probably sucks, but
let me know.
Just let me know. But that's the great thing about Strictly Hip Hop, and I'm still kind of shocked at the 25 years. When Vegas is like, when he sent that email and said, hey,
25th anniversary.
25th, I was like, nah,
it's
this is wrong. And I started kind of like trying to count back. I was like, oh my goodness,
it's been 25 years.
It's 25 years. I mean, it's amazing. I'm shocked that it like lasted this long, because there's a lot of hip hop shows that started when we were around. They're no longer. They kind of
fizzled out.
They fizzled out. Either people just life. They ended up getting another job somewhere. Yeah. They got family. Yeah. But Strictly Hip Hop has been able to like keep going, and I would actually like to find out if it is like one of the longest hip hop shows in the country. It has to be. Because 25 years is
that's a long time.
That's a long time.
And I think one of the things that kind of contributed to Strictly lasting so long, even though it was a college radio station, it's really a staple in the community here in Baltimore.
That's true.
Yes. So it's like, you know, anybody you talk to that's from Baltimore, if you are a hip hop head, you got to know about Strictly.
You got to. I mean, this station, like, literally locks down people. I mean, you know, another story that you know, I kind of cherish, and this is one person, a particular person that called up one day. We were taking phone calls, and you know, and this was like after I had finished doing the show. I think it may have been an anniversary show. We just said, hey, you know, can we take a few phone calls? And they were like, yeah. And this particular person was like, hey, you know, he said, Vinny, you know, Strictly Hip Hop, it kept me from getting in trouble. You know, I was, you know, headed down the wrong path. You know, I was bound to hurt somebody, you know, or end up in jail or dead.
Right.
And Strictly Hip Hop, like, saved my life.
And that's real.
And it was real. This guy, he was coming from, like, the heart, like, you know, saying this. And I was, you know, I didn't know what to, you know, really, like, say, you know, because you never, like, really realize.
Yeah.
Like,
who's listening? Who's up
listening?
with you?
Yeah.
And who's really being inspired by what you're doing, even though it's something so simple or small to you, but it reaches a lot of ears.
It reaches a lot of ears. And for, you know, speaking of reaching a lot of ears, you know, I also like to talk about this story too, you know, and this is during, you know, both Tupac and Biggie's, you know, deaths. I remember going through the motion of, like, the battles. You know, New York, East Coast, West Coast. And we kind of, you know, when you're doing radio, you kind of, like, sometimes you get in the moment and you know, you play some of the songs. I remember playing that one Tupac song. And he's like, you know, he's dissing Biggie. And, and I was like, and then, you know, after they both got killed, I started thinking about, like, wow, you know, could we have had, like, effect on that? And it made me kind of reflect a little bit, you know, on my responsibility, like, especially in a situation where you kind of have a little control. Yeah, definitely. You know, commercial radio, you don't have no control.
Not
you
at
pretty
all.
much are just gonna follow, like, the list, and that's how it is. And if you don't, then you're out.
Right. We find somebody else to do it.
You know, so you kind of, like, sit down, you kind of, like, think about that, like, you know, I'm playing all this music for, like, all these people, and I'm actually having, like,
that's your personality that you're you know, putting out there.
So, you know, you kind of have to, you know, so now, you know, I kind of, like, look at it and I say, yeah, you know, I have, you know, and I always felt that way too back then too. You know, I always had a responsibility to still, I wanted to play hip hop, you know, but I also wanted to make sure that I kept the balance, you know, bringing in positive, you know, things in there, you know, diffusing problems, battles between people, you know, so it would escalate into other things. So we try to, like, kind of balance it, play good music, have people, like, enjoy themselves, and that was, like, the main thing. We just want people just to enjoy yourselves. When you listen to Strictly Hip Hop show, you're supposed to enjoy it. Yeah,
it's gonna bring you, you know, you get the new music that opens your ears up. You get the old school that's gonna make you sit back and reminisce a little bit. So it's like, it's an experience.
That's
listening.
Right. That's right.
And that's what we're trying to continue to captivate.
Well, I mean, you're doing a good job. You gotta, you know, I mean, I'm so happy that you know, to see so many good people, like, take over the show and keep this thing going. You know, I would like to see it go, like, another 25 years.
Yes, we trying to get 25 more.
Yeah.
Jay Ashley, what's up?
Hey, it's lit. You know, we here.
Yeah, you're gonna come in. I'm gonna come in here with my Lil Kane and.
You're like, Strictly, you still going?
Yeah.
Like, we playing this one right here for Vinny V.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, I love to see it go, like, another 25 years, so I could, like, sit back and, like, just, like, and just
That
kind of
would
like
be
laugh.
amazing.
And it would be really like amazing. Actually, a 50-year,
Oh man.
we had to have a party for that one. But 25, I'm gonna be, a little bit definitely older, of course.
Yeah.
But you know
gray,
what? You know what? I'm gonna, I have a little bit more gray than I have. I got my little 6 strands or whatever.
Oh man, who's counting?
But I mean, that's that's pretty much. I think some of the good things about Strictly Hip Hop, and I think that what I hope, when people look back at Strictly Hip Hop, and I hope they just kind of like see, just a group of people who just like love music.
Yeah.
This thing, I mean, for me, it's not like, it wasn't like a fame thing. I didn't, actually I wanted to do like production stuff. I got in a little situation, got a chance, the opportunity to do a show. I like music. I was like, we're gonna have fun.
And that's where the soul of it comes from. That's where the realness comes, because it's not about wanting to be a personality or wanting to be popular. It's about really having a love for what you do and dedicating yourself to it.
That is right. And and people, they see that and they hear it.
Yeah.
They know that you guys, when I'm sitting there like, dang, that song is like, just rewind that thing, play it again.
Yes.
When I do that, they know that we're like enjoying the music. We sometimes we're doing the same thing like people at home, bro.
Right, you sitting back, nodding your head, bumping.
Yeah. I'm sitting here, tonight, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, listening to some of the sounds, and I'm of course reminiscing, like a time and a place, but it brings joy.
It does.
It brings a lot of joy to me, and makes me want to stay up till 5 in the morning.
Yes. I mean, before you know it, you up at 12 and you rocking with him. Before you know it, you look up and you're like, it's almost 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock, yeah. And I gotta go to work.
Yes. Yes.
That's it.
Oh man. But you know what's crazy? Speaking of Strictly being like a staple in the community here in Baltimore, a lot of listeners are, that of the prisoners or the system here.
Yeah.
And you get a lot of listeners that one of the DJs was saying that's the only thing that they get to listen to.
Yeah, that was also one of the big things. I mean, we used to get a lot of letters.
Yeah.
And it took me by surprise. I mean, at first, in the beginning, we had, and I sometimes kind of wonder what happened to some of the guys. But I know there was one that used to send one probably every 6 months, and he would kind of go through a little depression.
Yeah.
And so sometimes the only thing that they had really was
they Walkman and a Friday night.
Yeah, the Walkman, and he would sit down and he would just be like, he says, yeah, Vinny, y'all play this thing here, and then he would kind of he would break down some of his favorite artists, and he's like, hey, can you play this?
Oh, cool.
And so we would always try to make sure that we and that was a regular thing for the show, that I would try to take some time to kind of give a nod, back to people in the prison system. Some people, they get in that situation and they made a mistake, and they end up there, and they don't really have anybody else to really talk to you.
Right.
So one of the things that we try to make sure that we do is send them a shout out.
Definitely.
And when we got letters, people wanted to kind of they wanted us to play a song or send a shout out to a loved one. We would try to make sure that we did that.
Yeah,
but that was that was a big part of Strictly Hip Hop.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people kind of remember us for doing that, because I don't know if that was something that at least I never really heard it. I never really heard a lot of radio stations kind of do anything like that. Really kind of give that
Yeah, to
do
really
that.
be there
Yeah.
and be supportive.
But then, WEA is like, a special.
It's the voice of the community.
Yeah, it's like a special type station, and,
Yeah.
And I think, any kind of station that, and I'm not sure if WEA kind of goes by this now, but I remember when I started, they used to have this thing called "We Educate African Americans."
Yeah,
I think that was like one of those things.
That's still the tagline.
Yeah, and that was such a strong thing to me back then, and I never really thought about it as like being like, one of those things like exclusive, of course.
Right.
It was still wide, for everybody, because the audience is very wide.
Mm-hmm.
But I always kind of like thought about that part, like we educate African Americans.
Yes.
And you kind of have to like also incorporate that into.
Because that knowledge, like they say, knowledge is power, but that education, even the education of hip hop, is needed.
It's needed, yeah. And it's like I said, we educated a lot of older folks back in the day.
Yeah.
I think some of them probably we were
Hip them to something new.
Yeah, we hit them to something new. I know some people, especially in the beginning, were like, "What is that noise? what are you guys doing over there?"
And even the youth, because even now we get like a lot of younger people that can say that they've been introduced to something new by checking out Strictly, so they're not fed all the crazy rap that's going on nowadays.
Yeah.
They can really say, I heard something soulful and it made me think.
Yeah, and that's one of the big positives. You can like just get one person to kind of like say, "Hey,"
just raise the eyebrow.
Yeah, raise the eyebrow. I mean, there's a lot of songs too that, there's a lot of music that we play, hip hop music, that we, and I think we said this earlier too, is that introduce people to some of the, old school artists or jazz artists or R&B artists or blues artists or rock artists, whatever. I know for me, getting into hip hop, even though I had, kind of listened to a lot of different things, hip hop also kind of made me dig a little deeper. Mm-hmm. So like, I would sit there and listen to like a Pete Rock song, and I'd be like, what in the world is that that he used? And then the next thing you know, I would go to some dirty basement, digging in records, and of course, I was always happy. It always makes me happy being in a room of vinyl. But I would go in there and look for that sample. And now things are a little easier. You can do a search, find things.
Google
but back
it.
then, you had to sit there. You'd be like,
do you miss that essence of hip hop?
You know what, I do.
Yeah.
Easy. It's funny coming here. I was hoping Dave bring, we went to Dave's house, DJ Big Groove, and went, and he has like a room of vinyl, a whole room, 2 rooms.
Oh wow!
And I miss, just to smell the album covers. When I used to like, even back in the day when we would buy hip hop records, looking at the label, being like, I wonder what this is, and not knowing really, but the label looked kind of cool,
right?
So you like bought it, So I miss that, Now it's like, it's just, I feel like it's just too easy, and sometimes I feel like I'm cheating, almost, because now I could just be like, oh, I wonder who sampled, I wonder what Pete Rock sampled on this song here. And now I can go to like some website
and it'll tell you.
And it'll tell me exactly like all the songs he sampled. And then I could go to YouTube and look it up there.
And there you go.
And there I go. And so one of the things that that I love doing, I still love doing when I have the time, is just go into like a little rundown basement where somebody just got nothing but like vinyl, You just go in there and you just go through records and find, songs that you like. And I think one of the things with hip hop, what hip hop made me do is, let's say, Roy Ayers is one of my favorites, so it's kind of not really right for me. Kind of like say this one because Roy Ayers is also already one of my favorites, so I already dig for his stuff anyway. But let's just say, it's Roy Ayers, and I may have happened to hear like a sample on, say, a Tribe Called Quest song, and that Tribe Called Quest song kind of introduced me to Roy Ayers. And so the next thing you know, that one little sample and one little song, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, this art, he's amazing. Yeah. And the next thing you know, I'm buying other Roy Ayers out. Yeah. I'm going to see Roy Ayers live in concert. I am now
it sparks your interest.
Yeah, of Roy Ayers. Yeah. And it's really helped a lot. I think a lot of artists kind of, there's some artists that probably would have maybe disappeared, with a generation, and they've been reintroduced to a new generation through hip hop. Yeah. And hopefully, and especially like music lovers, once we hear something, we want to hear something else. We want some more. We want to hear, and then we find out that, you don't just have this one album.
You get a taste of it, and you gotta find it.
You gotta find it, and so that's one of the great things about hip hop, and and I think, I'm glad that when we had that platform to kind of like, and with the platform of Strictly Hip Hop, rather, to do this type of things, we can kind of bring generations kind of together a little bit. They may not understand like fully what this young guy or young lady is like saying, then again, maybe they do, because a lot of stuff comes from the heart. Yeah. A lot of us can still relate.
Relatable.
Yeah, it's relatable, but at the same time though, for I know, my mom, for example, 60-something years old, but, my mom will like, she'll listen to it, she'll hear like, oh, okay, I hear the sample, and then she'll be like, and then she'll like, actually will like listen to like lyrics, and then she'll be like, oh, that's amazing. He's really like talented.
That's the beauty of it.
That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of hip hop. And it needs to be, just like I said, people, they have to like really like support, shows like Strictly Hip Hop.
Definitely.
It's
not easy staying around for 25 years.
It's not easy. People dedicate, they dedicate their time, money, coming up here, every week, but it's not easy. It's not easy to kind of stay motivated to like do it, but the other side of it, it's no real like outlet, Strictly Hip Hop is one of those things too. It also, kind of supports like local artists, and a lot of local artists, they don't really have like a lot of outlets. You can do some of the internet stations, maybe you can get on these little, these little local talent things that some of the stations do, but here it's like 12 to 5.
and you gotta be hot to be on Strictly.
That's the thing. That's one of the things, and that also kind of brings me to a story too with that too, is that we, especially in the beginning when we were like trying to ask local artists to do it, people would come with a lot of unprofessional type stuff, and we would like say, look, we're not playing.
you gotta school them a little bit and let them know you gotta come correct for Strictly.
Don't come to the station. Now you can do MP3s. Okay, all right, I gotta step in.
Still gotta clean them, please.
You still gotta clean those things. At least back in the day when I was doing it, people were bringing like the cassettes, and let's just say that, and this is not like a diss on the artist. I don't want anybody to think that, what it say is like MC such and such. I'm just going to actually just say MC such and such.
Right.
And they just decided to record over that, put a little, Scotch tape.
Yeah.
Record over that, put a little label that says such and such, and then put music on it, and then present it to us. And we were like, look, yeah, I know we're like at college.
Yeah, we homegrown, but you still got to be professional.
But be professional about it. You know, put together a nice little package, put together a nice little bio, and we'll get back to you. After we had a chance to check it out. Mm-hmm. We tried to like kind of get people to like do that so that they could prepare themselves, for the real industry. Yeah. Like nobody's gonna they can't take you seriously if you do that.
Right.
And we used to get that like, kind of often. But then, we also had like a lot of artists that they came in very professional, very supportive. And we, one of the things that I also wanted was to also support like the local scene. Like I grew up in Washington D.C. Mm-hmm. We're neighbors. We're neighbors.
Right.
Pretty
right
much. But I wanted to. I was here in Baltimore. Doing a show here in Baltimore, and my priority here was like I wanted to break as many Baltimore artists as possible.
Yeah.
And of course, I would look out. Of course, I would look out for anybody, any kind of independent artist that would like come through. But the main thing was like breaking Baltimore artists and trying to make that next Lauryn Hill. I come out of here, and we did a lot of things to kind of expose record labels to the scenes here back in the day, and sometimes and labels, they were like checking, they were definitely like checking for artists here, and so I think Strictly Hip Hop it's like one of those it just became a big platform for local artists, independent artists, and just supporting and educating people, about hip hop music.
Definitely. Jay Ashley, you got any questions over there?
You asked them all.
I asked everything. I covered
it. But I'm very happy that I was able to sit and listen to this, being, a freshman here at this school and being given this opportunity, because I know not a lot of freshmen get a chance to be, on air every week. Right. That's a big deal.
That is a big deal.
Yeah, and I was blessed enough to get the opportunity, but now hearing the history behind it, it makes it mean even more now than it already did mean to me. So very happy I got to hear the stories.
I have to tell you, you're starting off very right. You're starting off good. Starting off, I mean, I remember I think I started my first kind of radio experience started we had a carrier current. I don't know if Morgan still has like a little carrier current station. It was like a little tiny little station that just broadcast. It was supposed to broadcast to the dorms, and it's supposed to
like
broadcast.
WMUR, right?
Essentially, yeah. But that barely does that anymore either.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of similar, that situation there. It was like really not. You could use the equipment, which was kind of old, and at that time it was like kind of old and stuff, and it really wasn't like reaching any of the dorms really. But we did it. It was like we were learning.
That's where you get,
and that's where you kind of get your start.
Yeah.
It took a teacher, one of my teachers that saw I was kind of like dedicated and saw maybe I had like a little talent. He was just like, go over to that big station, and that was by then I was like a sophomore. So when you starting off early, which is great. I say, you just soak up all that experience.
Yes,
I'm trying. Trust me.
Hey, when you become the next Oprah, don't you dare forget about me.
Never.
Don't forget Vinny.
Strictly Hip Hop goes wherever Jay Ashley goes.
Hey.
All right, that's what I'm talking about.
Well, I'm definitely inspired. Like Jay Ashley said, like you dropped a lot of knowledge.
Definitely.
And for people who haven't known, you know, about where Strictly started and where Strictly came from. That means so much as to where we are gonna take Strictly. So thank you.
It makes us want to work harder to continue what has already started.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate talking to you ladies.
Yes.
I mean, you know, it feels good to like kind of like, you know, give this history. I hope that is, you know, this history doesn't get like lost. You know, not for like that I really like kind of like really care about, you know, myself personally. You know, I think I just the main thing for me is like is that, you know, people understand like the foundation of it, and the, you know, the reason, you know, why we probably did certain things, you know, and you know, like anything, you know, was anything like perfect? You know, I would love to say it was like perfect. Everything was like perfect. You know, best show, blah blah blah. You know, it was like a learning experience. We made mistakes, just like anybody else. You know, but we learn, but we pretty much try to focus on just, you know, just letting people have fun. You know, making radio, making it fun, and just coming in here as friends, music lovers, and just playing music to other music lovers.
Yes. All in the name of hip hop.
All in the name of hip hop.
Well, there you have it. Vinny V, the originator of Strictly Hip Hop. Thank you.
Definitely appreciate it. Thank you once again for the interview. And Baltimore, I really, really love you, and I thank you for, you know, letting me into your homes and ears, you know, over the years. You know, I definitely appreciate it. You know, I mean, I love this city. It's like my second home, for real.
We love you.
All right, love you all back.
It's Strictly.
Strictly hip hop.
Strictly Hip Hop. You were just tuned into the exclusive interview with Vinny V, the originator of Strictly Hip Hop. Thank you for tuning in and, you know, really just getting a piece of that culture. And we still got some mixes. It's not 12 o'clock yet.
Yeah, the party's not over yet.
Yes. We are still in the building. Y'all know Harvey Dent finished up for us. And we got Patrick Scientific in the building. He gonna rock out a little bit too. But you already know we here each and every Friday, 12 to 5. So
no doubt.
You know we coming back next week.
Let me get some shout outs in, man. I want to thank, first of all, I want to thank all the listeners who tuned in and has been supporting the show throughout the years. And even if this was your first time ever hearing Strictly Hip Hop, you know what I'm saying, we want to thank you. Become a member, WEAA.org, you know what I'm saying, because we are listener supported. But I want to thank a lot of the people who helped put this together, you know what I'm saying. It's not a one man or one woman show, you know what I'm saying. I want to thank A+ Autumn. I want to thank DJ Harvey Dent, Patrick Scientific, who's about to get on, Jay Ashley, you know what I'm saying, Ock, Scooby, Kill, Sam, Vinny V, Tanya B, you know what I'm saying, infamous DJ Titan, Kaz, Ronnie Don, who else? We got Lil Mike, you know what I'm saying, College Cal, you know, intern and working on the boards, Trelly Trell, you know what I'm saying, KW Swift, you know what I'm saying, who else was here, Boo Man, Track Layer, Big Groove, Miss J Nice, you know what I'm saying, who else, a 5-star, everybody who comes through every year to help make this 24-hour broadcast happen, you know what I'm saying, and we do it for you, the listeners. So please understand, this is what we do every Friday from midnight to 5 a.m.
Strictly